Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Hey, Bartlett, you look like Pettingill.
Fuck you. Joe Giammatteo.
I'd like to go by Pennsylvania Joe tonight, if you will. That's P-E-double-N.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history. One episode of Raw is War at a time, but first, I would like to just say it is great to be back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Great to see the studio didn't burn down around us here.
No, everything's good to go. We left it in working order for you.
Left your seat warm for you.
Oh, well, speaking of warm seats, try to flush next time you're in here, boys.
Hey, you can't ask for everything.
In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 2nd, 1998. This Raw was recorded at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, and features Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, Michael Cole, and Kevin Oh My God Kelly on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready?
All right, then. Let's get into it. This kicked off with a video package highlighting the shove heard around the world with multiple snap replays of the crucial points there.
You're talking about Sable shoving Mark Mero, right?
We'll get into that later. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to talking about that. That was followed by Degeneration X's recent exploits. This was all to summarize the road to WrestleMania thus far, with tonight claiming to be the most comprehensive update yet.
There was something said in that Road to WrestleMania video that I'm sure you loved, Bartlett, and I think it went something like this.
This is it! This is it! This is it! This is it! This is it, Austin!
Kevin Dunn's seizure on the podcast now.
Oh my God. You need to start filing your teeth down there, Ryan. This had the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Iron Mike Tyson. They're all going to be in the house tonight. And before we go any farther with this, I just wanted to let you guys know, I saw the dark matches for this episode in my research. Some were more interesting than others, but I just real quick wanted to throw them out to you. First up, Joe, you've mentioned them in the Observer News a couple times, but Adam Copeland had a dark match against Jesus Castillo, while Sean Morley was in a dark match against Sasquatch Perez. And the Bariquas won both of those, by the way. Who'd have thought that the future Val Venus would be into bestiality like that? But the two dark matches that jumped out at me, the first one was Brackus defeating Recon.
Brackus.
Future main event match there.
Yeah. And the other interesting one was Quebecer Pierre defeating Duke the Dumpster Drosy. He was billed here as just Mike Drosy, though. It was the same guy. I double-checked.
He's still a dumpster.
I thought he disappeared until he showed up at that gimmick.
The gimmick Battle Royale.
Battle Royale, yeah. Was that like 2003 or something?
He was piled up in Cleveland with the rest of the garbage. I'm just kidding. I love Cleveland in this episode, at least.
That's the same place we went and saw our pay-per-view, right? In Cleveland.
Gundon. We were at the Gund. Yeah, I'll mention it here in a minute. The start to this show, it really had me popping. JR was talking about these athletes being cranked up and ready to get it on.
Gassed up.
And that was immediately followed by, "Are you ready?
Are you ready?"
There it goes. Except it was followed by a huge yes crowd pop in answer. I mean, fucking goosebumps on that, man.
Lots of signs in the crowd now, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
DX is really getting over.
Flooded. Couldn't see any heads. It was nothing but white poster board everywhere. DX was down to the ring and looking good. They were dressed very well, with Triple H on the mic laying down a promo. He said that WrestleMania is now officially X-rated, whatever the hell that means. And Triple H went on to address Owen Hart and expressed a strong desire for that European title that shit on as being worthless for months. So I guess he's had a change of heart there.
It is objectively worthless.
Yeah, well, he cares now, though, so better late than never. Shawn Michaels was up next, looking very sober, I might add. Addressing Mike Tyson, he's going to make an offer that Iron Mike can't refuse at some point. Michaels then addressed Steve Austin, got a nice crowd pop there, and I especially loved the line where Michaels told Austin to put on his boogie shoes and get ready to dance to the tune of Sweet Chin music. That's great shit, pal. But no sooner did Michaels finish up than the glass broke, and Stone Cold Steve Austin marched his ass down to the ring to go eyeball to eyeball with Shawn. But no sooner did that happen than the lights went out, and the organ music hit, with Kane and Paul Bearer coming out. Paul Bearer cut a very short but very fantastic promo. Kane ended up leaving, and Austin decided to throw that pencil neck geek Michael Cole out of his commentary seat.
I popped.
I think he even called him, he didn't call him a geek, but he called him something.
Yeah. He took Cole's headset and cut what felt like kind of like an improvised, rushed promo, but it was still good on just the whole situation.
Gassed up.
We did get a view of Tyson showing up with Shane O'Mac in the back there.
Every time we see Shano, he's with Tyson. That's the only time we've seen him so far.
He's the only cool McMahon.
I guess so.
We also got a replay of Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack attacking the New Age Outlaws last week. So, my goodness, what a hot start, what a hot crowd, and this is where I wanted to drop and say whatever else you can about Cleveland. We can all three attest to the fact that the Gund Arena is a hell of a place to catch some wrestling. Joe, what did you think about how we kicked it off tonight here?
Yeah, this is a hot start. We're on the road to WrestleMania here, and this is what you want to start with, the main event for WrestleMania storyline here. And you've got DX comes down to the ring. For this version of DX with just Shawn and Try and Chyna, I really like Triple H starting off the promos. He starts things off all the time now, and I like that. He's doing a lot of big Valboski jokes, it seems, that we'll be getting later.
Very lewd.
Yeah, constantly talking about his penis, much like we will hear from Val Venus later on. But I do kind of want a fresh new feud for Try.
Yeah.
I am tired of the Owen Hart Triple H feud. It just doesn't really have any legs for me. So I'm not a fan of it. Shawn really knows how to work these crowds. He knows when he's working with a massive superstar like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He knows how to deliver lines and get heat, especially with a really hot crowd like Cleveland. That was really nice. Then we get Paul Bearer telling us that Steve Austin is going to hell tonight, and that is not going to be a bait and switch.
I agree. A hell of a start to Raw. You start things off with DX coming out here, the crowd going crazy. And Joe, to your point about Shawn Michaels, they're really in DX's corner until he starts digging into Austin. Then all of a sudden they turn on him and you could hear the boos raining down from the crowd. So great job from Shawn Michaels to steer things back to them still being the heels, even though the crowd is really warming up to them now. But I really like when Kane's music hit. Paul Bearer gave a very good, what I thought, promo here, saying that you don't have to worry about WrestleMania because tonight Kane will send you straight to hell. Fantastic. And Stone Cold, he was a little impromptu with the commentary booth after, but I thought he cut a pretty good promo here, bitching about Kane, saying, I don't care, turn the lights on, turn them off, bring your fucking flashlight, I'm going to kick your ass in the dark. It's just like the kind of stuff you expect out of Stone Cold. And it works every time. But I loved when he kicked JR's hat off the table like a piece of trash. That was hilarious stuff. So yeah, fantastic way to start off Raw.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it.
Mike Tyson wearing the Attitude shirt was awesome too. I like that.
And that won't be a swerve either.
It seems like, I don't know, like a switch has been flipped. Like Joe, you said that we are definitely amping up the road to WrestleMania here. And from last week to this week, it seems like they just pumped 1,000,000 volts into the performance here.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see if we can keep that energy going with our first match of the night. The Disciples of Apocalypse, 8 Ball and Skull, defeat the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg Jesse James and Badass Billy Gunn by countout in 1 minute and 22 seconds in a WWF Tag Team Championship match. The Outlaws came out in neck braces, and I fucking popped. I loved that.
I did too.
There was already a dumpster wheeled down to the ring for them, and I did like that. I appreciated that we did not have to see them being oh so ginger and careful wheeling it down that ramp. All I could think of was last week's Raw where JR made sure to say the word dumpster like 40 times during that LOD match.
I'm thinking that Duke probably wheeled it down there during the break.
Oh, that's why he was there
during
in
the dark
ring.
match.
Yeah.
But the Outlaw, it was his home. He brought his home in.
He sleeps in there.
But the Outlaws queued up the footage from last week up on the Titantron there. This was from their point of view, though. So that little handheld cam that the Road Dogg was carrying around, it was from that camera. This was when Michael Cole was following them around and Chainsaw and Cactus attacked them out in the parking lot outside. This was great. And then back in the ring, the Outlaws played it up beautifully, talking about charges being pressed and having a doctor's note excusing them from wrestling. But Commissioner Slaughter came up on the Titantron, ordering the Outlaws to wrestle and defend their titles, which queued up the motorcycle engines and DOA's entrance.
What a letdown.
Yeah.
What a boner killer.
And I got so hard with the neck braces, too.
Yeah.
But the real pop here came with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw erupting out of that dumpster with perfect timing to chase off the Outlaws. And in the end, it was great to see the DOA get their arms raised to Cactus Jack's music. That's it for this match, if we can even really call it that. But either way, they're keeping the story fresh, and I did enjoy this. Joe, what'd you have on it?
Yeah, I like the neck braces too. I like that the Cleveland crowd is really hyped up, and they're doing the "Oh, you didn't know" entrance with him, which is fantastic. He's not even doing the whole entire thing yet, and they're already repeating that part, which is cool. The Outlaw Cam, the New Age Outlaw Cam footage was funny. I loved that you could really hear Mick Foley doing his "Acha, acha, acha" as he's destroying the car with a bat. This was well done, this segment. I liked Sergeant Slaughter telling us you're going to defend these titles, but then it's fucking DOA, and that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, anytime DOA is involved in any match, that's going to be a sad day. Thankfully, though, this wasn't really a match. The DOA just showed up, I guess, come into the ring and then immediately have the match go to shambles and they become winner by count out. So thankfully, DOA being here was almost a swerve. I immediately was sad and hated it, but then everything that happened after it made sure that nothing about the DOA mattered. So I guess if you're going to use DOA, this is the way to do it. The home footage that we got to see, I too loved it, but man, when Road Dogg, as they were speeding away, telling Michael Cole that he looked like Pettingill, I fucking lost it. I couldn't believe he fucking said that. I had to rewind it because I was like, really? Did he just say that? And I rewound it and was like, he did. He fucking called him Pettingill. That was like the highlight of the show, almost. I mean, not my true highlight, but maybe a secondary one because I loved it. Them coming down on the neck braces, saying they got a doctor's excuse, that worked. Commissioner Slaughter showing up and saying, I don't give a shit, you're going to defend the titles anyway, that worked. Everything except the DOA being their opponents here worked. So if we could just kind of forget about them, this was a pretty good segment.
What's the ring announcer's name? Tony something?
Tony Schimmel.
Tony Schimmel. You could hear the disappointment in his voice as he announced DOA.
My favorite part of the New Age Outlaw Cam was, well, a big part of it was that we got to hear so many things that we didn't get to hear last week, like the Pettingill line. But whenever Chainsaw and Cactus first showed up and started attacking the car and they backed the car up and the car hit something and Billy Gunn goes, "What was that?" And just real faint, you can hear Road Dogg saying, "It's a dumpster." Such genius storytelling. I fucking love it. All right, let's move it along because we got a view of Sable next. She was very erotically applying some lipstick in the mirror.
She's hot.
before transitioning to a Michael Cole voiceover video package highlighting the story so far between Sable and Marc Mero, which then transitioned into the conflict between Luna and Sable, ending with last week's altercation between Mero and Goldust. And that was all the setup for our next match.
I'm offended.
I feel like I should be offended for you. My goodness.
Yeah.
Marc Mero with Sable defeats Tom Brandi by pinfall in 2 minutes and 42 seconds.
The big Italian.
I loved Mero throwing his robe at Sable when he was kicking her out up at the top of the entryway. That was great. Tom Brandi is trash, obviously, so this was nothing to write home about until Luna came down in this really weird pink vinyl outfit, which I loved.
She's pretty in pink.
She is. I wanted to call her a Barbie girl or something, but it just felt wrong.
Yeah, it didn't feel right with her, no.
Alien Barbie.
Yeah. Barbie, alien Barbie from the future.
Yeah.
I've been drinking Drano. Luna ended up being the distraction for Mero to get in the nut punch, leading to a TKO and pin for Mero. Luna got into the ring then and laid a big old smoocher on Mero, which was actually another distraction for Goldust to get in the ring and attack Mero. That drew out Sable, or Penelope Pumpkins, if you will.
Jeez.
She looked like she was going to give herself 2 black eyes running down to the ring, man. That top she was wearing could barely contain everything. So Sable went after Luna, and of course Sable came out on top of that fight, which Mero didn't like. Mero ended up taking another bump for Sable, so I think that's number 2 in the death of 1,000 cuts.
Maybe 3. I think that's the third push.
Oh, it's at least 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was 2, because that was then followed by number 3 when Mero ran from Sable. And then number 4, when the referee in the ring raised Sable's hand in victory for the match that Mero just
and
won.
Played her
See, I
music.
think that's 5 and 6.
And then number 5, when he exited to Sable's music.
Yes.
By God, Ryan, this was an absolute bloodbath for poor Marc Mero. What did you think of this?
The powerbomb never even needed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit is what I said when I saw this piece of garbage Tom Brandi come out. I thought for sure we were done with him. This is a replay from 2 months ago, the story of where Marc Mero was at. We're way back in time, not into the future. We're going back.
Gonna go back in time, yeah.
I don't have that on the soundboard. I feel like I need to for some of these matches, but
Yeah.
the match was not good. Luna came out. I always enjoy seeing her. She gets the setup for Mark to give the low blow, but this is, of course, all just, it's a ploy to distract him so Goldust can attack Mark from behind. Luna helps him out, and then Sable comes out. Thankfully, this week, they did give her some wider heels, so she was actually able to run. They're still like stilettos, but they were much wider, something that she could actually not shuffle in. But my God, Mark, poor Mark.
Yep.
They really told him to go out there and just be humiliated tonight.
Look what they did to my boy.
They massacred my boy.
I feel like there's probably like some kink that someone has to watch how humiliated he got. Some sexual desire that someone has to watch it, because it was disgusting how bad. And to be honest with you, if I didn't know what was going to happen in the future, he would have got Jobber of the Week tonight.
Oh my goodness.
It would have happened
Yeah.
because like this was just like when he hightailed out of the ring in fear of his life for Sable. I felt, I don't know if I've ever felt so bad for a wrestler in my life, and just watching his career get murdered right in front of us. Sad thing for him. If we didn't know the future, he would have got Jobber of the Week, but saved by that, I guess.
Paul Bearer told us that Steve Austin was going to hell tonight, but I think
Yeah.
Marc Mero went to hell. Side story here, Bartlett, you mentioned the TKO that Marc Mero uses. I listened to an interview with Christian this week from the tag team Edge and Christian, and he said that Marc Mero stole the TKO from him.
Oh.
He was using the TKO in like training, And when Mark Marrow was coming back from his knee injury, he was training with those guys and like asked him, he did ask, I guess, if he could use it. And I guess Christian, being a nobody at the time, was like, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy Whoppers and Mark Marrow come out to the
Still
ring.
a classic.
Marrow sends her to the back, and she came back out. I've never seen that before. I couldn't believe it, what they did here. It was shocking.
Such a swerve.
TV. Shocking TV. This is all just the same shit every week with these people. But it works with these horny crowds. I mean, they just want to see Sable. She doesn't really even have to do anything other than just make an appearance, and they are just foaming at the mouth, losing their shit. So I guess it works, but man, it's the same shit every week.
Yeah. It's lucky for everybody. That's the only thing she's good at, making an appearance.
Yeah.
And ruining her husband. Anyway, the show, it kept going, so let's go then into our next match. Mark Henry defeats Owen Hart by disqualification in 5 minutes and 37 seconds in a WWF European Championship match, with Owen Hart retaining the European Championship as a result. Owen and Mark looked good at the start of this. Mark Henry was selling really well for Owen. And speaking of looking good, Chyna came out, ambling slowly down the entryway to stare at Owen.
No business being there.
No, not at all.
There was a "Marry Me, China" sign in the crowd as well.
Yeah. The work continued to look good. Mark Henry looked like a beast. Owen looked technically skilled against him. And JR on commentary was fantastic in this too, really leaning into the stats when Mark Henry powered out of the sharpshooter, which was a great visual, quoting Mark Henry's leg press strength and all of the muscles involved in that. This fell apart a little for me though when Chyna distracted Owen, and Owen very obviously put himself in a position to be interfered with. But the result of that looked great. Owen was coming off the top rope, and he landed in a bear hug. But the finish is where this really peaked for me. Chyna got in the ring and gave Mark Henry a nut punch while he was holding on to that bear hug. I would like to think that she continued her arm a little bit farther to make sure that Owen got a piece too, although we didn't see that. This was giving Mark Henry the victory and letting Owen keep the title ahead of that title match against Triple H at WrestleMania. Michael Cole tried to get an interview with Chyna on the ramp. It was very brief, but Chyna just stared at Michael Cole like he was the biggest piece of shit on the planet the whole time, and I fucking popped for that. So, Joe, I mean, it's pretty clear here. They're trying to tie up loose ends heading into WrestleMania, not just in this match, across this whole episode. And they're generally doing a great job of it, but bringing the Triple H Owen Hart feud back to life, my God, it's not making any kind of impact for either of them. I know you touched on this earlier, but it's anathema. It's not helping anybody. What'd you have on this match?
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, maybe now this will spark something between Triple H, or Try, if you will, and DX against the Nation, since she punched Mark Henry in the balls.
Good call.
Maybe that will spark something new. I guess we're going to have to live with this Owen Hart Triple H thing till WrestleMania maybe, but hopefully that's where they're going with it, and we'll get something new with Triple H. But I think that this match was okay. It was very short, so there wasn't really much to talk about. It was really just set up for that Chyna interference. But Mark Henry's he's young, he's fun to watch, but we know that he has a lot more personality, and it'll be fun to see him show that later on. But since he returned, it's been good to see him back in the ring for sure.
Yeah.
One thing we've touched on before is Owen Hart's music and kind of how bad it is. And I've been trying to put my finger on just what exactly it reminds me of. And I think I finally did this week. It's a show from the late 90s, early 2000s called Junkyard Wars. It sounds like the theme song to Junkyard Wars. If you're from across the pond, I think it was called Scrap Heat Challenge, but same show. Not sure it had the same music.
Well, if it's early 2000s, then I guess Jim Johnston was way ahead of his time here with this theme.
I guess. But Junkyard War song had a lot of, as the name would imply, like backing up, beeping sounds and trucks going. And yeah, that's what it reminded me of. The match itself, though, I was kind of excited to see this because I thought this was a pretty interesting mix of styles. Mark Henry, who's just a big beast against this technician, Owen Hart. I thought it matched up pretty good. Mark early took that through the ropes bump onto the outside. I thought for a big guy, he successfully did that. And all around, just a pretty solid match, even though it was really short. Owen Hart is the perfect person to put in the ring with someone like Mark Henry, a early rising star of yours. China coming down every time I see China, I love it. But bringing the Owen story back to the DX try thing, I don't necessarily love that, but I will let it go to see where it's going to go, just because everyone involved is still high caliber. So maybe they could salvage it. The end of this match, though, I really loved Michael Cole following China up the ramp, trying to get an answer out of her as to why she did what she did. And she just replies, "Because I can." And that was it. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fact that do you guys remember how Try and Owen end up? What that match is like? How it goes?
I don't. No.
Me neither. And I think that does not bode well for for the end of this story. So
yeah, it doesn't help that Triple H is injured too. So
no,
it kind of just hurts it even more.
Yeah. All right, man. We were just really cruising through the card because we went straight into our next match. Taka Michinoku and the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, defeat Barry Windham and the Rock and Roll Express with Jim Cornette. Thank you. By pinfall in 1 minute and 48 seconds in a 6-man tag team match. What a terrible string of words that was to speak out loud.
Wash your mouth with soap.
Yeah. I had already forgotten about the Headbangers winning the NWA tag titles last week, which I believe I called that, by the way.
Yeah,
that
the week
was the
before.
Only way to get slightly interesting. It didn't work.
Yeah, you weren't here to cover it, but you did call it.
And you're not even interested.
No. I was very wrong on that.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit it. This match had more telegraphing than a Morse code museum.
Ooh.
Yeah, you need to get a rim shot on there, Ryan.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. Windham didn't even take off his assless chaps for this.
Never does.
That's all I've got. Ryan, what'd you have?
I don't have much either because the Rock and Roll Express and Barry Windham were on the same team wrestling at the same time. I did enjoy Mosh telling the Rock and Roll Express, though, that it isn't the 80s anymore, so beat it. That was a pretty great line, but the match itself was not great at all. Big surprise, Droopy Arm Express looked old. Thankfully, they spared us, though. This was a very short match. It quickly dissolved in the chaos, and it was all over with the Headbangers winning with a pinfall. So I guess if we're going to keep it this short, we can allow it, but even just having to stop and talk about it at all is kind of a letdown.
Yeah, the NWA guys look like absolute shit walking down the ramp, and they're old, but it seems like they're trying to look hip and young, and they're not. I kind of like Taka calling everybody a jackass now. I think it's pretty funny. I don't know. I knew this would be shitty, but it was worse than I imagined. That's all I'll say.
The NWA, they're like the Steve Buscemi meme with him trying to be a teenager with a skateboard over his butt. Yeah.
Well, so thankfully, instead of that last match, we got a view of Iron Mike Tyson back in the parking garage to end the first hour of Raw because, man, they're really just fucking it up with ending the first hour on NWA matches. Although that last match, it probably did do some damage to the ratings. And when we came back into the second hour, once again, I have to commend the fans there in Cleveland for booing the shit out of Vince McMahon. And he came down to the ring to introduce Mike Tyson.
Yeah, they let him have it.
Yeah, this was what you would expect at first. I had to note the shit-eating grin on McMahon's face when he asked for a little respect, and the booing got 5 times louder.
Yeah, and he did. That grin on his face.
He loves it. You know it.
Yeah, he's getting addicted to being a heel.
Yeah. and in about 20 years, he'll take it way too far.
Oh, God.
Before Tyson could answer the question posed to him, DX came marching out with their serious pants on, and things ended up getting weird, with Michaels just randomly challenging Tyson to a fight, and everybody was like, okay. They just all got out of the ring after all these weeks of saying that that wasn't going to happen with anybody anywhere. So the ring cleared. Shawn and Tyson were alone. They got a shoving match going, but it was a swerve, bro. Shawn ripped Tyson's shirt off to reveal a DX shirt on Tyson, and everybody blew up, having a great time. Mike and the boys there loved crotch chopping everyone in sight, including Vince McMahon, who did a great job of being pissed off and storming out of the ring area. Shawn Michaels made sure to grab a mic and emphasize that he runs the show, and JR and the King really put this all over on commentary, and this is just yet another huge moment in WWF history. And not just that, but also the road to WrestleMania. So, Ryan, not just an iconic moment, but also just a fucking great way to start the second hour of Raw. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, they really kicked off the second hour of Raw, the War Zone here, on fire. We bring out the big guns with Mike Tyson, but just like you, I loved Vince McMahon just bathing in the booing of the crowd, and you could just see him. It's like in Star Wars. He could feel the hate flowing through him. And Tyson, it did start off just a little bit odd. You're like, why are Michaels and Tyson so angry with each other? And then this match and everyone clears out. And like you said, everyone was like, well, this could never happen. But all of a sudden they're going to allow it to happen. But I knew it was happening here. So the surprise factor of it maybe isn't there anymore because of that. But I don't think it really mattered because it's still an iconic moment. Just hearing the way the crowd reacts to it, the way everyone involved, Michaels and Tyson, the way they react to it. It's a really good way to just further set things up for WrestleMania. At this point now, all the cards are stacked against Austin. The numbers, the guest referee. I mean, there's no way he could win this, right? I've said it a couple times, but I still agree with it. Better than fucking Shakespeare, this is.
Yeah, that's a good note to end it on there. I agree with that because, yeah, Austin is the babyface and he needs a good heel and a good storyline going into WrestleMania if you're going to put the belt on him. And this is a great way to do it. This is a good swerve. It's not, like you guys said, it was kind of weird the way they set it up, but it was supposed to be weird because it's a swerve and Tyson was in on it. He's already been having a good time, you can see, but he's going to have a blast with all this suck it stuff that they're going to be doing. And they're already doing the suck it with their hands on his crotch. So I love that because they do that with China sometimes. So now they can do it with Mike Tyson and it's great. The other nice thing about this is that this is really adding more Mr. McMahon elements in because Mr. McMahon's night was ruined when Austin tried to attack Mike Tyson. And now Mr. McMahon's night is ruined when Mike Tyson basically turned his back on him and is joining forces with DX. So I kind of like that there's like that underlying Mr. McMahon thing going on here too. I like that they kind of mix that in there. So this is great story going into WrestleMania.
Yeah, great call with that. I didn't even think of that while I was watching this, but you're absolutely right. Every major turning point in this angle, I mean, it's involved those three people, Michaels, Austin, Tyson, but in the background has been McMahon and his good time being ruined.
Yeah, getting screwed over.
So yeah, well, I'm going to have to pay attention to that moving forward. That's a real good call. All right, so let's go now to our next match. Steve Blackman defeats Kama Mustafa by disqualification in 3 minutes and 4 seconds. This is like part 3 of Steve Blackman punking out the nation. And I have to say, I like what they've been doing here.
Yeah,
Blackman's
I enjoy
undefeated.
It.
Yeah, the Rock and Farouk story has been progressing as kind of like a sidebar to these Blackman matches. It's been done really well. I wasn't sure how much of that we would get with this match, though, as Commissioner Slaughter came out to send the rest of the nation out of the ring area for the match, and things looked good here for the most part. Blackman still needs to work on how he bumps and sells for his opponents, but he's still green, that's to be expected. He's great on offense. He doesn't have any problems working offense. The straight kick leading into the submission attempt, that looked pretty goddamn stiff. But that submission attempt drew out Farouk and The Rock, as well as the DQ decision for Blackman. We got the official christening of the Rock Bottom here by JR. He said, I do believe that's what this young man's been calling it. But Ken Shamrock came out to Blackman's defense and to get a couple licks in on The Rock, and that's where things finished up. I like the match. I like everything going on here, but I'm a little leery of any kind of pairing between Shamrock and Blackman. I can't remember if that happens or not, but I do not want to end up with an MMA stable. These guys are much better solo. Joe, what'd you have on this match?
Yeah, I agree with that. But for the match itself, I didn't really have much to say about it. But this is the second hour, so it's the better commentary hour. We have Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross. You already mentioned Jim Ross, mentioned the Rock Bottom. Jerry Lawler says he has seen enough of Commissioner Slaughter tonight, and I hate to say it, but I agree with him because Commissioner Slaughter got fucking buried for us, a couple months ago?
Yeah, when he had to humiliate himself to the DX.
Right, so who gives a shit about him right now?
He had his balls clipped right in the middle of the ring.
Yeah. And JR also officially made, I think, the first reference to calling Steve Blackman a lethal weapon. I hadn't heard it until tonight, so that was cool. The other thing I noticed was Farouk came into the ring and slammed Steve Blackman as if he weighed like 20 pounds. It was just an amazing slam. And yeah, Ken Shamrock comes in and roid rages. So that was pretty much the end of it.
Yeah, Slaughter, I agree. He's getting a little bit too much camera time tonight. I don't know. Maybe he was just in town, so they decided they were going to use him. I don't know. Because we haven't really seen him too much, but all of a sudden tonight he's showing up in almost every match. I thought the action was pretty damn solid. Blackman is definitely still green, but another case of just good styles matching up. The quicker, faster Blackman matching up against the similar fight style, but more of the power fighter. So I thought that worked. There were a couple rough moves, though. Kama at one point slammed Blackman like directly onto his hip, like put both of his weight and Blackman. And then a little bit later, Blackman went for a backbreaker and he just couldn't quite get the big Kama up into the sky high enough to really make it look good before he put him across his knee. But for the most part, pretty solid. Just a little bit of sloppiness. It was serviceable. But unlike you two guys, when the nation came out here and gave Kama a little bit of help, I like Shamrock coming out only if, as you stated, Bartlett, they don't become a stable. But I do want to see maybe one tag team with them together against the nation, because when I see those two guys together, what it makes me think of is like Ken and Ryu, teaming up from Street Fighter. It's like, it's fine if it's a one-off.
It sounds like you are wanting a friendship angle, so please give it to me.
Friendship again.
Yes.
Yeah, so as long as it's one match, and I'm guessing it's going to be a WrestleMania match where they go up maybe against The Rock and Farouk, which
it's
maybe
Ken Shamrock and The Rock at WrestleMania. So
okay, they're already going. So maybe next week or the week after we'll get this tag team. But I guess that kind of proves my point. I don't think it's going to be a faction. I think it's just going to be a one-off tag team match, and that I'm a little bit interested in. Yeah, in the friendship.
Well, it's never steered us wrong before.
No, never.
Just two dudes with attitudes is what they're going to be.
Oh, God. So after that, we broke to commercial and came back to Colonel Parker in the ring.
Oh, my God.
That was a what the fuck moment for me. And he introduced Double J Jeff Jarrett, who came out in that same country music gimmick that Double J Jeff Jarrett was shit-talking as a ridiculous cartoon gimmick about 3 months ago.
It was Vince's fault.
Yeah.
3 months ago. And I said, what the fuck again? I did love that some kid in the front row had a Double J Rules sign that Jarrett called out. That was awesome. That was cool. That probably made that kid's fucking decade right there.
Oh, I mean, he probably still talks about it.
But Jeff Jarrett did end up correcting me. This isn't Colonel Rob Parker, which was this guy's name in WCW, and who I remember as being a love interest of Sherry Martel over there at WCW. This is actually Tennessee Lee. But I'll be goddamned if I remember any of what's going on here. I don't remember any of this. So this is what's going to lead us into the next match. But I had to pause it here. And Joe, I have a couple questions for you, because if anyone is going to know just what the fuck this nonsense is, it's you. So first of all, I know last week there was the issue with Jarrett and Cornette, and maybe I missed something, but first of all, where the fuck is the NWA Heavyweight Championship title now?
Well, that's what I was asking when I was watching this. I was like, wait, he's not the NWA champ anymore, so they're only half killing that NWA angle. So now I'm still pissed off. I hate it. I love Tennessee Lee, but I hate this.
Oh, Jesus. So can you add anything on this, like, gimmick 180? Like, do you know anything about this? What the fuck is this bullshit?
I don't. I was hoping it was a swerve. I do remember Tennessee Lee being there for a while, but I think he's still there when Jeff Jarrett, like, cuts his hair and does the other thing that he does later.
Becomes more of the badass.
Yeah, the don't piss me off Jeff Jarrett.
Right. Yeah.
But, oh, man, he's pissing me off with this. My God. I don't remember this at all.
I mean, to me, it's funny because I actually loved that he was coming out in his old costume. I found it fucking hilarious. Saying that ain't I great? I mean, all of it. I really enjoyed that he was doing it. I mean, obviously, the contradiction of what he was saying from 3 months ago is absurd, but who gives a fuck? It's wrestling. Him coming out in that hat lighting up. just hilarious that he's doing it again. But the belt just disappearing, that's a little bit odd. But yeah, I liked it. What I was thinking with, as far as why he was doing it, though, is maybe it was just them realizing that the NWA angle wasn't working. And they just tried to pull a 180 and do something different, because that clearly wasn't going to work.
Well, I mean, for all of the big deal they've made over the NWA, you would think that they would, I don't know. I mean, they had the whole Trouble in Paradise with him and Cornette last week. You'd think they would maybe draw it out one more week, put him in a match where Cornette fucks up again so he actually loses the title. That would make sense.
But he already said last week, I think it's time for me and Cornette to go our separate ways.
Yeah, and maybe in the back, I mean, Jeff Jarrett, he had some pull because of who he was, who his dad was and everything, but maybe he went back to the back and was like, look, I don't want to work with these fucking guys anymore. Like, I want to do my own thing.
I'm just going to go back. Peace. Yeah, I don't remember any of this.
I mean, fuck, man. If you were going out there every week and had Rock and Roll Express droopy arms with you, like...
Oh, yeah.
I'd be screaming, please, anything. Yeah. Give me the LED lighted glasses back. I'll do it.
You would think that somebody with Jarrett's pedigree would have some kind of appreciation for storytelling.
Well,
he did tell a story tonight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was like, this storytelling with the NWA isn't working, brother.
Yeah, we're missing a couple chapters. All right. As I said, that led into our next match. Double J Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee, who I don't like, by the way, defeats Flash Funk by submission in 3 minutes and 32 seconds. So if anybody should have reverted back to a previous gimmick, it should have been Flash fucking Funk, for God's sakes.
He was a jobber of the week.
He's a jobber
not all
this
that
week,
long
too.
ago. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more about Flash Funk and his jobberific matches, head back to the October 13th, 1997 episode of Wrasslin Raw and check it out.
Yeah, back when he still had the Funkettes and the curly boots.
Yeah.
The Cadillac
These boots aren't much better, but a little bit.
Well, they're missing that enormous flap on the shin.
Yeah, that's the improvement.
So Jarrett's even back to wearing that weird singlet that looks like 3 suspenders up to a dog collar. I thought it was kind of funny that Jarrett kept sitting up every time Flash Funk tried to put him in position for a moonsault. Flash did hit a hell of a rolling kick. That looked great. And Double J ended up avoiding that final moonsault with some interference from Tennessee Lee, applying the figure 4 leg lock to get the submission victory. Ryan, I don't know what else to say about this other than Tennessee Lee sounds like it ought to be the name of some fucking penguin cartoon character in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the 60s. What did you think of this?
Well, I mean, I'm with Joe. I love Tennessee Lee. He's a fantastic manager. I hope he sticks around for a long time. But the match, very, very forgettable. I mean, very short, and a misfortune for Flash Funk. It's been so long since we've seen him. He's grown his hair out. He has a ponytail now. I feel like he didn't have that the last time we saw him, but that didn't matter because he was just here to lose, and extremely quickly. This is just trying, I guess, to prop up the new persona of Jeff Jarrett. So I didn't hate everything about this. I especially didn't hate him coming back out as Double J. As I said, really enjoyed that, but the match was very much a throwaway.
Yeah, pretty much throwaway. What a waste of talent with Flash Funk. Like, they've had this guy for how long now, and they've just completely jobbed him out since the very beginning, basically.
Yeah.
Too Cool Scorpio was a fucking badass in WCW before this, in like the early 90s.
And we will see him back.
Yeah,
but
Too Cold
Scorpio.
Man, he was like, before he came here, he was awesome, and then they just fucking jobbed him out hard.
Yeah. You guys know that Tennessee Lee's like 7 inches taller than Jeff Jarrett. Like, he makes him look small. When has a manager being bigger than the wrestler ever worked out?
You're going with the DDP angle there.
Are you talking about just height or weight? Because Paul Bear has been heavier than some of these.
He's got a lot of girth.
Height, not girth. Right.
Length, not girth.
Yeah. The big
size
stick.
queen.
All right. So after that, commentary started dropping hints for a celebrity appearance at WrestleMania. And as it turns out, Gennifer Flowers will be there, and Jesus Christ, how fucking pathetic is Vince McMahon? So, for anybody out there that doesn't know, Gennifer Flowers is a singer and author that Bill Clinton had an affair with during his presidential campaign, the first one, and the affair came out after he was elected that first time. Leave it to Vincent Kennedy McMahon to pull that level of just bullshit pettiness. And he probably paid well for it. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, good for her, man. That's a good cash grab for her.
Oh, I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all.
I don't begrudge somebody hitting the pay window.
But I was excited. I'm like, oh, nice. What kind of guest are we going to get? This fucking Gennifer Flowers. Who gives a shit?
Well, they were hinting at, like, they were saying she, and I was hoping for Rhonda Shear.
You could see the shadow, whatever. You'd like, It was definitely a woman. I'm like, oh, nice. Who's this going to be? And it's fucking Gennifer Flowers.
I really wanted it to be Rhonda Shear again. I love Rhonda
Shear.
Sure,
why not?
Goddamn.
Up all night.
Yeah. Of course, the King had to make a whole bunch of jokes about that. And moving along, we had a commercial break that came back to Michael Cole waiting to catch Mike Tyson and D-Generation
Michael Cole tonight.
Yeah, they're shoving him in there quite a bit. Nice and deep. And D-Generation X leaving the arena, which Cole did catch them, and as soon as he did, Triple H said, "Shut up, Pinhead," and shoved him away, which I popped for. That was great.
Yeah.
Tyson did an okay job of keeping up with the talk there. It wasn't much, but he was very quickly whisked away. And we went back to commentary, who continued talking about the demise of the LOD, which led into a recent history of the events surrounding their apparent death by modernization, according to the Michael Cole voiceover. And then that led into what I feel like is the 5th or 6th eulogy for the LOD we've had in as many months. I mean,
yeah. This was maybe the longest.
Yeah.
The death rattle. We got through that and ended up on a fantastic view of Kane in the back to end this segment. So, Ryan, this was a blockbuster segment. Not only are we getting Gennifer Flowers, by God, at WrestleMania, but the LOD has died for what looks like the 17th time right before our eyes. What did you have on this all?
Not a ton. The Gennifer Flowers thing was, I guess, not a surprise, but wasn't very exciting at all. It's something we've come to expect out of Vince McMahon. Michael Cole trying to get a word in here with DX and Tyson. This was fine. Triple H shutting up Michael Cole. Tyson, as you stated, he does an okay job here, saying he's going to knock out Stone Cold. And then he insults Michael Cole, but I don't know. The audio was a little bit odd and quiet, and I couldn't make out exactly what he called Michael Cole, and I wish I could. I don't think either of you would have been able to make it out either. It was really, really mumbled and gargled. But this LOD video, though, the moment it started, I thought the same thing. I was like, how many memorial videos of LOD are we going to fucking get? Because it seems like it's been a baker's dozen in the last couple months. So this one, though, definitely took the cake. And I don't know, it felt 20 some minutes long, but yeah, nothing special there.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add about the LOD death again. Gennifer Flowers, I'll be honest, like I had to look her name up because that's how much I give a fuck. I forgot who she was. I had a feeling about who she was, but I was like, who the fuck is that? And had to look it up. I do want to say with the Mike Tyson getting in the limo scene, I thought that was a little awkward. I was thinking that there was going to be some sort of shenanigans, but there wasn't. I was waiting for Austin to sneak attack DX or something, and it just didn't happen. It was just an awkward moment with Michael Cole being annoying and Mike Tyson just getting in a limo and leaving.
Yeah, I can see how you would get there because it was the perfect setup for it, and it just seemed really rushed.
Yeah,
like they didn't want to fuck anything up. Get him on and off camera as quick as possible before he can ruin the mystique. Well, that was good, though, because it saved more time for the Michael Cole eulogy. The death rattle started 15 years ago when these brothers... All right, let's get into our final match of the night. Kane with Paul Bearer versus Stone Cold Steve Austin ends in a no contest before it can get started. So JR and Paul Bearer both reminded us that the Undertaker is officially dead. So just keep that in mind. Don't get your hopes up. And before Austin could get past the entryway coming out, DX was right there. Shawn Michaels laid Austin out with the sweet chin music, fulfilling that promise made earlier tonight. I loved that. And with a little over 10 minutes left in the episode, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. There's obviously going to be more to come out of this. So rather than pause like we normally would at the end of a match segment, we're just going to plow right through it to the end here. We pretty quickly broke to commercial with scenes of DX crotch chopping Steve Austin's semi-conscious body and came back to commentary updating us. DX has left the building. Austin was unaware of that and on the hunt for him. But lest anyone should forget, Kane and Paul Bearer were still down there in the ring. I guess they were hanging out while we were at commercial for 2.5 minutes. Paul asked Kane to go get the ring bell, and on the way there, Kane ended up pulling a fan out of the audience and beating the shit out of him. I love that. It was so random. It was so unexpected.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And Paul Bearer pleading, stop! Like, what are you doing?
Part of me wondered if that was Louis Gianfrido that they planted there. But Kane pulled the bell and the timekeeper up into the ring. This was in order for the timekeeper to toll the bell 10 times in memory of the Undertaker's rotting corpse. Paul then asked Kane to ring it one more time for the timekeeper. And then ordered a tombstone. And they murdered that poor man. That poor man has a family.
Not anymore.
Mark Eaton, I think, is what they said this timekeeper's name was.
He's the beer tosser. He would become the beer tosser later, yeah.
Okay, he's got great aim.
He's quite skilled.
Yeah.
He really does.
Paul continued to cut a promo, challenging anyone to come and get a tombstone because Kane has one left in him. But the lights went out and the bell tolled. Purple light illuminated the ring while the bell tolled a total of 10 times. The entire time, Mark Eaton was still laying dead in the middle of the ring, bathed in purple light. Somehow, a coffin appeared at the top of the entryway and a fucking bolt of lightning struck it, exploded it.
Through
And
the arena.
The Undertaker's body was laying there. They did that so well. They did such a great job with that. His dead ass sat up and cut a hellacious promo. He tore into both Kane and Paul Bearer, saying that he had been out communing with his dead parents. By God, I could never do this justice, so I'm not going to keep going with quoting it, but I'll be fucked if this wasn't one of the most powerful promos I've ever heard in my life.
And they really they put an effect on his mic to really amp it up and kind of give it like an echo. It was really cool.
Yeah. And that is where we faded to black. What a fucking finish to this episode. I don't remember this happening, but as soon as they brought the timekeeper in to ring the bell, I knew we were going to be hearing from The Undertaker here, and it did not disappoint. This was very sports entertainment. This was very cinematic. This gave me, I mean, I didn't watch the modern match with Undertaker and what the fuck's that guy's name?
AJ Styles.
AJ Styles, that's right. The clips of that match that I've seen, this reminded me of that. The way it was filmed, the way the audio was produced. This was just very, very cinematic. So, Joe, why don't you please get us started on the way that Raw ended tonight?
We start with the bait and switch with Austin's music hitting, and then just Triple H just randomly on the side of the stage there and destroys Austin, gets the sweet chin music, and that's over quickly. Then we get Kane there beating the shit out of that plant in the crowd, which was great. Getting Mark Eaton in there and just destroying him, absolutely destroying him. Man, I fucking love that he laid there dead for a good 10 minutes. I thought that was hilarious. Motionless in the ring.
Yeah. He started the moment Kane got him up in the choke slam. He just went limp. He closed his eyes. And just fucking played dead from that point on.
Yeah. I mean, he's a pro. We know that he's a pro. So
especially at slinging beer.
Yeah. And the lightning bolt striking the coffin, the crowd lost their mind when Undertaker sat up. JR was losing his shit the whole time. So this was extremely dramatic and very well done. And it went a little long and it was overly dramatic, but what an incredible way to present the Undertaker accepting the challenge at WrestleMania of facing his brother Kane. Like, this was really the best way to do it. Ryan, you mentioned they even had they had some reverb or something on his mic to kind of really amplify it even more. I think he had the Britney Spears mic on his the little headset thing. But you know what else I noticed too? I feel like this was sort of inserting the tip on the more satanic version of The Undertaker. I feel like they're kind of really just
traveling to the dark side, all sorts of
dipping into it. And it makes sense because he's been gone for over a month, and that's usually when he kind of reinvents himself sometimes. So that is very exciting. But like I said, the thing that really stuck out to me was just what a fucking way to accept a challenge. I mean, this was very well done.
No, I couldn't agree anymore. And it's kind of interesting because we start off with what's supposed to be a Kane versus Stone Cold match. And as that starts, JR, he always comes up with the best hell references for Kane. This week he says, Kane, he comes directly from hell. But before Austin could make his way down to the ring, he gets the super kick. And it's kind of odd because very rare is Stone Cold playing second fiddle to some other storyline.
Yeah.
But that was the case here. This was to set up Kane and The Undertaker. And that's how we're going to end things, not with Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin. And I thought that was kind of cool. And then it leads into Kane and Paul Bearer attacking, well, first Kane attacking seeing this plant in the crowd, I just loved the way Paul Bearer reacted to that. The way that he was like, oh no, what are you doing? type of a thing. It just made Kane come off more insane. But getting Mark Eden up in the ring, that whole thing was great. And then you knew this was leading to The Undertaker. The moment the light goes out, they string us along with the slow 10 tolls of the bell. All of that was just fucking fantastic. And then that casket sitting at the top, that lightning bolt, holy fuck, it just exploded. It was like a movie.
Yeah.
This was a fantastic piece of theater. Is what this was. Undertaker gets up, cuts a fantastic promo talking about traveling to the dark side to communicate with his parents, which is a important little tidbit because as he's promised for months now, he said, I will not face Kane. He's my brother. It will not ever happen, but here's the out. Here's how he can do it. He's talked to his dead parents. He told them I have to do it. Okay. He got their permission, right? Kane's been a bad boy. You can go kick the shit out of him. And then the icing, the cherry on the top here, he tells Kane at the end, may the hounds of hell eat your rotting flesh. You will rest in peace. And I got fucking goosebumps. It's the best fucking story ever told in wrestling right here. I mean, not necessarily this segment, the whole Kane Undertaker story.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Shawn Michaels and Diesel's friendship is close, but but no, my favorite part of this, I actually had two parts of it, the lightning, but more so because like, how the hell did they do that? I
looked really good.
Yeah. It was such a well done effect.
If I'm going to guess here, there was probably a metal rod put on the casket, and then there was a thin metal wire that probably went up to somewhere up in the skylight, and they sent something down it.
And you're probably right, but how did they make that turn into the walls and top of the casket blowing apart?
Well, then you just have timing of some fireworks. No, it was done flawlessly. It looked great.
Yeah, but my favorite visual besides that in all of this was where Paul Bearer was yelling, "You think you're the only phenom?" And Kane raised his hands up and did his thing where he creates the hellfire, and a line of hellfire appeared at the top of the entryway, and the Undertaker stepped through it and immediately shut the flames down in doing so. That was fucking tight.
And even said, I will step through the flames of hell to meet you, or something like that.
Yeah, great shit.
Better than Shakespeare.
As I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first, please?
Well, it's hard for me to not select the debut of Tennessee Lee as my highlight, but I will say the Undertaker accepting the challenge to face his brother at WrestleMania, just very well done. And my lowlight is fucking NWA, I guess. Who did they go up against again? Headbangers and Taka. Yeah, fuck that.
Highlight, I mean, let's be honest, the most iconic thing of this match that most people remember is DX, Tyson, that whole thing. And it was damn good. But for me personally, Undertaker's return, accepting the challenge to Kane, hands down wins it for me. I've been a mark for Kane and Undertaker for most of my wrestling watching life, so no surprise there. And it's not going to change anytime soon. Low light, though, I'm going with Mark Marrow versus Tom Brandi. Come on. Why is Tom Brandi back on our fucking screens?
Yeah, so I think we're 3 for 3 on this, on the highlights. So I thought there were a couple strong contenders, Ryan. You mentioned the DX thing, but ultimately I went with the finish to the episode. I mean, Undertaker, Kane, just the whole scene. It was just so impactful. That was taking the road to WrestleMania and turning it up to fucking 13 for me. I was already excited and looking forward to it. That was chef's kiss. That was piece de resistance on top of it all. Lowlights, again, a couple of strong contenders, and we're all differing on this one. I ended up going with the regression of Jeff Jarrett. Fuck that. Fuck Tennessee Lee.
18%er.
It's all terrible. It is all terrible. All right, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around March 2nd, 1998 for us?
I do. Direct from the Wrestling Observer. Even with all the Mike Tyson hype this week, WCW still won in the ratings by a full point. Now, what's interesting about the ratings this week is that both WWF and WCW received their second highest ratings ever for both of their Monday night shows.
As they said, it was good for both companies.
Speaking of WCW, Bret Hart had his first match on TV for the first time in over 4 months. He defeated Bryan Adams, and I'm not talking about the Canadian singer. I'm talking about a Wrasslin Raw favorite, Crush.
What? I thought
Bryan
Crush was in
Adams.
jail.
Huh? No.
Crush. Okay.
The steroid incident, that was before.
Okay.
He defeated Bryan Adams by DQ when Kurt Hennig interfered. So that's exciting if anybody wants to go back and watch that. Vince McMahon, a lot of Vince McMahon news this week. He was on the show Off the Record. I talked about this last week. Bartlett, you were not here. Off the Record was a Canadian shoot-style interview show back in the 90s. Very similar to the YouTube shoots you see these days with wrestlers.
Didn't Bret Hart have quite a few good interviews on that show? Okay, yeah.
This was the show that I said Bret Hart was going to go on, and then Vince McMahon wanted to go on the day after It was right after the screw job.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vince McMahon, when he was asked if he regretted the decision to have Melanie Pillman on Raw the next night after Bryan's death, Vince McMahon said, "I don't regret that whatsoever. The purpose for having Melanie on was because at the time, Brian Pillman was a real free spirit. Brian was known from time to time to use recreational drugs.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was thought at the time by his wife that was one of the reasons why he died. So I gave her the forum to say, maybe everyone can learn from this. Maybe everyone can benefit from this tragedy. And that is why we had Melanie on, to be able to say that about Brian. As it turned out, he had a heart attack and a defective heart."
Yeah.
As it turns out.
As it turned out. McMahon was also asked to give quick reactions to certain names. For the Ultimate Warrior, Vince just simply said, "lunatic." For Eric Bischoff, Vince replied, "Don't know him that well. From his reputation, not a nice man." On Hulk Hogan, Vince replied, "Not as big as he thinks he is."
Won't that kind of play into a court case later?
That girth. Well, yeah, that's true. Because Hulk Hogan is the one with the huge penis. Terry Bollea does not have a huge penis.
Micro
Shriveled
dick.
and-
Yeah.
On Bruno Sammartino, Vince replied, "A confused individual suffering from dementia,
Whoa.
but one with a great reputation." What a
Jesus.
fucking backhand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's solely because Bruno, if anyone doesn't know, wasn't high up on the McMahons. He kind of said they made him work through a broken neck, that type of stuff. So,
Yeah, and he really hated the Attitude Era. He didn't like all the crude behavior and shit. So, Rick Rude, Vince replied, "Someone who would like to be in this era performing with the greats, but can't."
Jeez.
wow.
Jesse Ventura, Vince said, "Overrated at the time and still is confused about his place in the history of the WWF."
Well, you're going to still pay him a royalty check, dickbag.
Yeah. And Kevin Nash, Vince said, "A very fortunate individual that someone finally saw the talent and gave him the opportunity to be somebody," which he's referring to himself, if you didn't catch that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, what a weird comment.
Whatever.
And the last person he was asked about was Vince McMahon. On Vince McMahon replied, "The luckiest man on earth. I've got it all. A wonderful family, the privilege of being in a company and doing what I love, which is entertaining people. It's the biggest thrill of my life, apart from my family."
Okay. I guess that was a nice, safe answer.
Well, we know how much he loves his family.
Right. I mean, we knew it was total bullshit, but
Yeah.
it was a nice, safe answer to give.
Last piece here is that Vince McMahon did rip into Ahmed Johnson. He's
Good.
on both Off the Record and the Ottawa Sun article, I guess. Basically saying he didn't know that Ahmed didn't know the difference between Ahmed Johnson and Tony Norris, and that he was often injured and that he also injured others. And he said some other things basically saying that he thinks Ahmed Johnson is a complete piece of shit, but I didn't write it all down, so...
And that he's injury prone. I hope he wrote that down.
Yeah, somebody should have.
Yeah, somebody should always be writing that down, and that is all this week.
Right. What a news update, Joe.
Yeah.
My God, you've outdone yourself here.
Girthy, like a lot of things tonight.
Yeah. But not Terry Bollea's pee-pee.
No.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan's, on the other hand.
Yes.
The third Anaconda.
10-inch beer can girth on Hulk Hogan.
And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most phenomenal Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 9th, 1998, with matches featuring Barry Windham, the Rock and Roll Express, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.